What brought you to Papua in the first place?
Well, that's a story. It's a very short story, actually.
It is? Yeah. Okay. Then probably we can suffer through it now.
I was happily working away, finishing a project.
Here in Iceland?
Here in Iceland, in Reykjavik. And like in my industry, filmmaking and television or whatever, you work throughout the day and then into the night and whatever. And I sat at home and I was downloading clips or something on my laptop, and up pings this email from an Icelandic film director.
Somebody you know?
Yes, Gísli Erlingsson, who I hadn't spoken to for 20 years.
Okay.
And it was a very short and very strange email. And it said, and I quote, "Long time no see. How would you like to run a TV station in Papua New Guinea?"
Okay, I am sure that when you receive an email like this, you either think somebody's pulling my leg, or this is a scam under false pretenses. Did you believe your eyes?
Not at all.
No.
And I thought, I don't think he drinks even. I thought he must be drunk. I think he doesn't do that much. But anyways, I thought he's drunk. But my humor is a bit sort of strange. So
Icelandic.
Yeah. So I answered back, "Yeah, why not? Best regards." And before I knew it, I was talking to people on the other side of the world with 10-hour difference in time. So I was speaking to them at 9 o'clock in the evening when it was 9 o'clock in the morning at their time, and so on. They flew me down to Dubai.
Were these Papuans or
No,
what
these
people were these?
the job that I was being offered, the head of news, sport and production for TVWAN, they call it, TVWAN. But they spell it slightly differently, but it means the same, is run by a company called Digisal, who are, the owner is an Irish bloke, and they focus on economies that are emerging economies, they call them. And they went into Papua New Guinea in 2007, raised towers all over the place, and now you can stand on a mountaintop or any village, more or less, and you will receive a phone signal.
So they are kind of modernizing Papua New Guinea in this manner, this Irishman and his people. But were you always convinced that you would end up by saying yes to this offer?
No, not at all.
No.
I mean,
but you flew to Dubai.
I did, and I asked them to fly me to Papua New Guinea to have a look, but they were reluctant to do that. And
Did they show you pictures then?
No, not really. They sort of were quite cagey about the whole thing.
Well,
now
but still you went on?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
I don't know why. But in retrospect, I sort of thought they were being cagey for all the right reasons. But because obviously for a European who's lived in Iceland most of his life, it is a bit of a shock to the system to move to a place like this.
Yes, you've lived abroad though, not as far as Papua New Guinea before,
No.
but you have tried living abroad. But had you been living in Reykjavik your whole life, it would probably have been more of a culture shock than for, because of your background. You probably were ready to adjust to this strange environment to you.
Well, I lived in the jungle of London for a few years and worked there and studied and whatever. So
And the jungle of Breiðholt, of course, in your younger years.
yeah, my native Breiðholt, the slum of Reykjavik now, they say, but I don't believe that. But anyways, yeah, so the London experience was probably a good one because you have to tread carefully, in some neighborhoods there and stuff like that. So that thinking of being careful and not drawing attention to yourself unnecessarily and those sort of things is pretty good rule of thumb in Port Moresby, the capital of Papua New Guinea, because that's rated as one of the most dangerous cities in the world.
But Eggert, you decided to take the offer. Mm-hmm. What was the turning point? What made you say yes?
Well, I'm a bit strange like this. I sort of, I never thought I was an adventurer, but I've been doing this project for, you know, I've been working in the Icelandic media for a long time, award-winning and, you know, God knows what, and done pretty nicely for myself. It was a hard slog, and this project was coming to an end, so the offer came at a perfect time. Because normally what I was doing at that moment was I was finishing this one and looking for the next project to come along.
And of course we have to remember and probably tell those people who are listening to us that don't know much about Iceland, is that, as we said, Papua New Guinea is a small nation with 8 to 11 million people. Yeah. Iceland only has about 350,000.
Yes.
So the market is really small, and probably you had finished all your resources and you had, you know, come to your limits in what you could do.
Possibly.
And wanted to, you know, reach out and try something new.
Absolutely.
It was maybe that time in your life. But you decided to take this job running a TV station. You started to work in media in a country that you had never been to before, but probably never even thought about.
No.
You probably knew, being an Icelander, that this island nation existed. So this must have been quite different from the environment that you had been working for the past 20 years or so in Iceland. And you had to, as I believe that you must have, as a director of a TV station, a news TV station, you had to dive into the society that you were starting to work in, and you had to know what is news in Papua New Guinea, which probably is rather different than in Iceland. Or what?
Well, people are the same the world over. You know, they're dealing with the same things. They're dealing with their economy. They're dealing with education or lack of it, or health service, and you know, it's always or the lack of it. Always the same thing. You know. Some people drink too much, some people do something, you know, something they shouldn't do, and, you know, so on and so forth. So we're all human beings, and we are all dealing with similar matters. The situations might be slightly different between the countries, but probably the biggest decision I made there was in February. My CEO, the CEO of the media arm in Papua New Guinea, said, Eggert, you know, we're having trouble with audio, you know, some of the images are out of focus, and you know, what can we do? And he's mentioned, shall we bring in expatriates, bring in guys from India or, you know, from around the Pacific Rims who know the stuff and you know, just bolster the team with those. And I said, no, thank you. I said, I would much rather work with my Papua New Guinean team exactly because of the points you raised, because they know and they could teach me. And I was obviously in a situation trying to teach them, trying to, you know, make them think in the way I think. But again, I learned that quickly that I couldn't force those things because, you know, I don't know what possible violence could meet them if they asked the wrong question at the wrong time, which they had the sensitivity to navigate. So what I did was I shored up the production. I made sure the audio was fine, the images were of good quality and those sort of things. And while I was doing that, I was working with them on the content at the same time. So I did it backwards in a way, because of course you should work on the content first and then the technical side, but I found it easier to get through to my people through those means because there was no threat. Okay, I stopped being, no, I never stopped being the foreigner or the white guy or whatever. They always called me boss, and I hated that. But you know, it's those sort of things that you deal with. And then I started finding the gems, the fantastic reporter, my head of news. God rest her, she died recently. Glenda Poppert, I was scared of her. It was a mountain of a woman, you know, and they chew the betel nut, which is a drug, pick-me-up drug. They chew that and eat mustard seeds and lime, they call it, or kambang, which is mashed up seashells.
These professional people were eating this on the job?
Yes, and they're obviously going to go on screen as well, so that's one of the things I had to say to them was, you know, either you have to stop this or you have to brush your teeth 10 times before you go on screen. And they were good, you know, I didn't notice that after a while that they had actually been chewing. And it's a drug, which is a very, very common thing in the country. But in any case, you know, she was a fantastic news editor and you know, knew the then Prime Minister and, you know, so on and so forth. Without being too close to them, you know, we could still tell the real stories without being influenced by being biased to what he wanted to say and so on. So it sort of worked in a funny sort of way, and we found a happy medium, happy middle ground we could stand on. And Glenda stopped calling me boss and called me by my first name. And it's in their culture, that's something which they find very, very difficult.
Interesting. But on the way to finding these gems and finding the middle ground, did it ever cross your mind to just leave everything and go back home?
No, not at all. This was, well, the first year I went by the rules. You know, again, this is an Irish company. They get press in Ireland and so on and so forth. So they guard their expatriate workers in such a way that we won't get into harm's way. And the first year I was quite isolated. You know, I sort of saw everything from within the station through a camera lens or through you know, those things. And then I started moving out. I started driving around myself and finding my feet and
started relaxing in the job.
Yes, very much so, and learning a lot about the culture and the people. And when you live in Moresby, you meet people from every place in the country. So it sort of changed a lot. But the first year was, you know, probably it was good that I stayed put because I was just working on different things and learning the Australian football, rugby rules. I was head of sport as well, so I've never been...
That's rather interesting.
I've never been that much for sport, but, you know, I blacked it.
Mm-hmm. Did you have liberty from the owners of the stations to do almost whatever you wanted, or how was the relationship with the owners?
Well, the owners were quite absent, you know, in a good way. This is not a negative way at all. But within the company, we had a legal team and a government relation, which is a good friend of mine. In 2018, I think it was, we went through elections. And the elections are very complicated, very lengthy business. Here, you go into the booths open at 8 o'clock in the morning. They close again at 10 o'clock at night, 10 p.m. And first numbers come in around midnight, and you're more or less done by daybreak. 5, 6 o'clock in the morning. You sort of know here in Iceland, and same goes for most European countries. The elections took a month
to get the results.
Yes.
The final results.
No, not really, because then they went on and accused each other of impropriety, and that box didn't arrive from that village, and
Sounds quite familiar, though.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It's what I found lacking when we came into, when we were just doing normal things, but it became more apparent when we came nearer to the elections, was debates. To bring politicians into a studio and have them debating the issues, not arguing, but representing what they wanted to do and their party and so on and so forth.
You said they had the Westminster method of election.
Yes.
But they have political parties as well.
They do, yes.
Yeah. Are there many there, or how is the system?
They've got 5 or 6 parties, I think. They don't affiliate with, they don't tend to say they're left-wing or right-wing. They don't have that system. And they are built on alliances. It's negotiated alliance after the elections. And
even before.
And even before. They even go into an election with, us, those 2 parties are going to work together. But then they split up and they walk across the floor, they call it, and try to blow up this government and get another one in and those sort of things. But it's democracy, in their way. It seems to work up to a point.
How is the system? Do they have a president, or is it a prime minister that rules everything? How is the governmental system?
There's a prime minister.
Mm-hmm. Not the president.
Not a president, no. It's a prime ministerial system. And Peter O'Neill had been in power from 2011, I think. And then during his first years, they had an economy boom because they was starting to sell the gas rights, and everything was on the up. And they fixed Port Moresby greatly, in terms of infrastructure and roads, and very few potholes and whatever. But rest of the country is sort of left behind a bit in that respect. But and now James Marape is the prime minister now, and he had a close call around Christmas time, just before Christmas, where people walked across the floor and they went into 2 camps and argued a little bit, but they've sort of came to the conclusion together that they were going to muddle on until next elections, which are 2022.